All right, fifth grade, here is the process you're going to follow for printing your plate once you get it carved twice today. You are going to be set up just like this. You're going to find the color of ink that you want to print the background. This is the first color you're going to be doing. And at that station, you're going to have a spatula for the ink. You're going to have a printing plate with a roller. This roller is for printing ink. This other roller that's here is for rolling the back of the paper, and you want to have your paper ready to go with your name and your number on it. So I would just have that ready with the clean ink brayer. And then you are going to start by scraping out some ink and putting it on the printing plate. And you're going to want to be careful not to get any ink on your paper. So I'm going to scrape out a small amount and just kind of swipe it onto the plate here. And you're going to use this sprayer to spread this ink out evenly. The ink is going to be sticky, but you want to spread it so that there's no big blobs in the ink and then it's kind of evenly spread. You do not need to cover the whole plate, and in fact, doing that kind of wastes your ink. So you'll want to look at your brayer and make sure that there's no big chunks or blobs of ink on there, and then we're going to start rolling it directly onto the styrofoam. Now, you're going to want to re-ink your brayer almost every time you add more ink here. Don't just spread this ink out, because if you don't get enough ink, you won't get a nice print. Now, if you notice that the ink starts to get into any of your lines, you might have too much, but you do want to go all the way to the corners and edges, and you don't want to wait very long before you print. So now I'm going to take my paper with my name on the top, and I'm going to lay it directly on this plate. And once it touches, you really can't move it, so make sure it's straight. And then the clean brayer, this shouldn't get any ink on it the whole day today. You're just going to roll over the back and make sure that you do roll the entire paper so that you're transferring all that ink. Okay, and then when you're finished, you're just going to peel back your paper. And if you use the right amount of ink, you should have a really clear image. At this point, we're going to take this paper to the drying rack, and then we're going to wash our plate and get it ready for the next print. All right, so now I've got my styrofoam plate washed and dried. And before I go to my next color, I'm going to take time to cut out just the animal. Now, you don't want to do this at a printing station because you'll be in the way of somebody else who might need to use it. So you can do this near the store and make sure that all of your styrofoam pieces go into the trash. Now, you might notice wherever I have tight corners on these zigzags, instead of trying to turn my scissors into these tight corners and risk tearing my styrofoam, I'm just cutting from two different directions. If you feel like you can't turn your scissors without bending your styrofoam in a certain area, just cut from another direction to pop it out of there. All right, so with my next print, if there's leftover ink still at your station, before you add ink to this, scrape up the extra that's left over and kind of make a new little blob there, and then maybe add a little bit of ink to it to make sure that you have enough, and then roll it out again. And this will just make sure that the ink that's on the tray isn't dried out. And remember, I want to keep this sprayer clean for rolling the back. I want to roll this out evenly again. And now I'm just going to roll it onto my plate. And again, re-ink your brayer multiple times, at least 3 or 4 times. Try to get as much ink off the plate as you can, and make sure that everything's evenly spread. And once you think you've got a nice coat on there, don't wait too long. Now this time I'm going to do this a little differently. Instead of putting the paper on top of the plate, because I have to match my plate up with what's already there. I'm going to put the plate on top of my paper. And again, once I set it down, the ink's going to transfer. So I want to make sure that I get it as close as I can to my original lines. And then I'm going to roll the back. Now this ink is still a little bit wet, but it should be dry enough that it's not going to smear or smudge. I want to make sure I roll the entire back of my styrofoam plate. And then I'm going to carefully peel it off. And now I've got my second layer. So after this, I'm going to return my print on the tray to the drying rack, and I'm going to go wash and dry my plate again. We will do the third and final printing layer next time.